I moved into an old apartment downtown with a guy named Mark. He was quiet, kept to himself, which I appreciated. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. Then the furniture started moving. I'd wake up, groggy, and notice my desk lamp was on the other side of the room, or a bookshelf had been shifted inches from the wall. I always brushed it off as me being tired. Maybe I just didn't remember putting it there. But it kept happening. One morning, my alarm clock, which I always kept on my bedside table, was on the floor, tucked under my bed. I asked Mark about it. He just blinked, said he hadn't touched anything, and then went back to his room. His denial was so casual, so convincing, it made me doubt myself even more. I started marking things. Tiny pencil lines on the floor where my coffee table sat. A post-it note on the back of my desk chair. Every morning, without fail, the marks were off. Sometimes significantly. The coffee table would be a foot closer to the TV. The chair would face a different direction. I tried staying awake, but exhaustion always won. I'd drift off, only to be woken by soft, scraping sounds from the living room, sounds that would cease the moment I tensed. One night, I couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy. I heard the familiar, faint drag of furniture. I crept out, flashlight in hand. The living room was dark, but a faint outline of the couch showed it had been pulled away from the wall. "Mark?" I whispered. No answer. I shone the light around. Empty. Then I noticed it. Next to the newly moved couch, pressed against the wall, was a small, dusty child's rocking horse. It wasn't ours. It had never been there before. And as my light lingered, I saw new pencil marks on the floor, outlining where the rocking horse must have been before it was moved. The marks weren't mine. They were old. I lived alone. Mark moved out weeks ago. My roommate, Chloe, was always a bit private. She spent a lot of time in her room, and I respected that. But then I started hearing the conversations. Not just talking on the phone, but full-blown, two-sided discussions. The odd part was, I never heard anyone else's voice but hers. At first I thought she had a speakerphone on, or maybe it was just background noise from her computer. But the conversations were too intimate, too specific. It'd be in the kitchen, making dinner, and hear her voice from her room. "No, he always leaves his keys there." Followed by a pause, then, "Yes, he's making that awful stir-fry again." She was talking about me. It creeped me out. I confronted her once, casually. "Who are you always talking to in there?" She looked at me, confused. "Just listening to a podcast, why?" Her expression was so genuine, I almost believed her. But the voices continued. One evening, I was studying late. Chloe's door was slightly ajar, and I could clearly hear her. "He thinks he's so clever, doesn't he?" she whispered, followed by a low, guttural sound I couldn't quite place. Then a voice, clearer this time, an echo of Chloe's, but subtly different, responded, "He'll find out soon enough." My blood ran cold. It sounded like Chloe, but distorted, as if a second person was mimicking her perfectly. I stood up, walked slowly towards her door. The voices stopped abruptly. I pushed the door open. Chloe was asleep, curled in her bed, headphones on, music faintly audible. The room was empty. No phone, no computer, just her, sleeping. I went back to my room, heart pounding. The next morning, Chloe was gone. Her things were still there, but she wasn't. I called her phone, no answer. Days turned into a week. Finally, the landlord called me. Chloe had been found in her car, parked miles away, deceased. The police said it looked like she had been dead for days, possibly a week, before I even started hearing the conversations. But that wasn't the worst part. When the police searched her room, they found a small, hidden recorder under her bed. It was playing back my own voice, distorted, mixed with a chilling, mocking whisper that sounded exactly like Chloe's. And then, a perfect echo of my current thought. He'll find out soon enough. My new roommate, Alex, seemed perfectly normal, quiet, kept to himself. The only odd thing was this thick, leather-bound journal he always had with him. He'd write in it constantly, sometimes muttering to himself as he did. I never paid it much mind. Everyone has their quirks. One afternoon, I was cleaning the living room when I noticed Alex had left his journal on the coffee table. My eyes, against my better judgment, fell open to a random page. My stomach dropped. The handwriting was neat, but the content, it was a detailed account of my morning. He woke at 7:17 a.m., brushed his teeth for exactly 2 minutes, ate cereal Frosted Flakes today, wore the blue shirt with the faint stain on the left sleeve. It was chillingly accurate. I snapped the book shut, heart racing. I tried to convince myself it was a coincidence or a general observation. But then I saw another entry title, My Roommate's Habits. I flipped through, horrified. It wasn't just my morning routine. It was everything. My grocery list from last Tuesday, my phone call with my sister about my new job, even a small argument I'd had with myself in the mirror about getting a haircut. He had documented my life in excruciating detail, from how many steps I took to the bathroom to the specific brand of toothpaste I used. I confronted him, shaking. He just looked at me, his eyes wide and unblinking. "It's for my novel," he said, his voice flat. "I base my characters on real people. You're just very inspiring." His smile didn't reach his eyes. I couldn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow, felt like Alex watching me. The next morning, I found the journal on my bedside table. It was open to a fresh page, dated for today. The first line was written in his familiar hand. He woke at 6:45 a.m. earlier than usual. He felt a profound sense of dread. But the dread wasn't the worst part. Beneath that, in a slightly shakier, darker ink, was another line, barely legible, that hadn't been there a minute ago. And by tonight, his dread will be justified. He will finally understand. When I moved in with Leo, he had one rule. Never, ever touch the door to the small storage room at the end of the hall. It was always locked, secured with a heavy, old-fashioned padlock. I didn't question it much at first. Everyone has their secrets. But as weeks turned into months, the room became an obsession. I'd hear faint thumps from behind it, usually late at night. sometimes a low, choked murmur, almost like a whimper. I asked Leo about it. He'd just sigh, "It's just old pipes, the building's ancient." But the thumps weren't rhythmic, and the murmurs sounded too organic. The smell started subtly, a faint, cloying sweetness, like decaying fruit, mixed with something metallic. It would come and go, but always strongest near that door. I tried to ignore it, but the curiosity was eating at me. Leo was getting thinner, his eyes sunken. He rarely left the apartment, always hovering near the hallway. One afternoon, Leo left for groceries, the first time in days. The moment the door clicked shut, I was at the storage room. The padlock was formidable. I spent an hour trying to pick it, then another trying to force it open with tools. Nothing. I was about to give up when I noticed a tiny, almost invisible key taped under the frame of a nearby painting. My hands trembled as I inserted it. The lock clicked open with a heavy thud. The air that rushed out was thick, overpowering. The smell was intense, gag-inducing. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness. The room was empty, completely bare. No boxes, no furniture, nothing. Just bare, dusty walls and a concrete floor. My heart sank. All this for nothing? Then I saw it. On the back wall, almost hidden in the shadows, was a small, crudely drawn tally mark, and next to it, scratched deeply into the plaster, was another padlock. Not on the outside of the door, but on the inside. It was brand new, gleaming. And then, from behind me, I heard the click of the apartment door opening, and Leo's voice, tired but calm. "Did you find it then, my other door?" "There."